do you believe the conditions at Rikers are beyond repair? So we talked last week about the judge, I believe it's Laura Taylor Swain, who is deciding about these two proposals. One is for there to be this conservatorship, basically government or court taking over, or the city wants to have more control, despite nothing really changing at Rikers. There's been at least 35 deaths in the past since 2022. There's been no significant change. Actually, conditions have gotten worse. And so, sorry, not conservatorship, receivership. Sorry. Yeah, right. And so we pose this question, is Rikers beyond repair? Do you believe that they're beyond repair? And so we didn't get a lot of participation in this poll this time. And we kind of speculated that might be because Rikers is a very regional uh, topic. But
Yeah, and also even if you're in New York City, you would have to have some kind of experience with Rikers to be able to answer that.
right, so um, 33% said yes, they believe conditions are beyond repair, and 67% said no. Um, the comments didn't really, there was only a couple of comments. They didn't really add to any sort of discourse here. One person said, now that there's effectively zero chance Trump will be sent to Rikers, I'm all for fixing it up. And then someone said, pretty sure Elon needs to do a personal inspection, a very lengthy one. So there's more kind of troll commentary, but
Emptiness. Yeah. All right.
yeah. So the majority of people think it's not beyond repair,
Yeah.
which, you know, I think we kind of agree, but it's going to take a significant change in the system versus just moving it around.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, how can it or any place really be beyond repair? Of course, there are things you could do to fix it, but this idea that you have to close it is symbolic. It's a band-aid solution if you're not getting at what the real issues are,
Right.
right? So for people to say it's beyond repair, just close it. And then what? You pop up more jails who also have the same problem. Why would it magically be better? Right. So
Right.
thinking should always be, how do we improve the system, as opposed to just let's shut down a facility and open up a new one somewhere else. That's,
Right. And
the
it's
idea
it's
of moving. You're depressed with your situation in life, so you move. Maybe that helps on a superficial level, but you still have you're taking you with you where you go, right? So whatever issues you had
right.
here, so going to be there.
Right. It's clearly a systemic issue because, I know I'm very much oversimplifying it, but I do think to some degree it's this simple. It takes basically a phone call to say, stop doing what you're doing, right? If you're violating prisoners' rights, stop it. Hold those people accountable that are doing it so that everyone knows that this is no longer acceptable, right? If conditions are bad, then you got to get in there and revamp some of the place. I'm sure that there's infrastructure is not that good. It needs revival, right? If prisoners aren't in safe conditions, fix it. It simply is a phone call in that regard. It doesn't seem like, to me, it doesn't seem like they want to do it. It seems like it's something that's intentional.
I mean, yes, to a degree. I think it's a little reductive to say it's a simple phone call to fix things like a lack of accountability in the system, for example. I mean, some of that might need to be legislated, right? There are certain things that need to be done. Some of it might be a matter of hiring or looking at somebody's contracts. There's a lot that goes into this, right? So I don't think it's necessarily
It's
simple.
oversimplifying,
Right, right. But
but
in philosophy, I think your point is valid. That it's just a matter of deciding to want to do it and then doing it.
right. I mean, if the problem is, if one of the problems is that guards are too aggressive and they're violating their rights, well, the simple solution, the simple fix is from the top down, make sure they're held accountable when they cross that line.
Make sure they're held
And
accountable. Make sure you're hiring better people, right? Make sure you can fire the
right,
people you need to fire. Make
yeah,
sure you're doing all
set
of
a
it.
line and say, listen, this is what we've been doing so far. This is no longer acceptable. We're done with that.
Right.
I mean, it's
But the city has been held in contempt for not addressing these issues. And so
right,
now we're in that situation where what do we do? Right. That's why
right.
receivership is on the table
Yeah,
and the court will have to decide it. But I do think that this is a big systemic problem. So it goes beyond
absolutely.
just some of these quick fixes that people talk about. I mean, it's all of the above, but
Yeah,
the right to a speedy trial, for example, right? Why are people
right.
held on Rikers for such a long period of time without seeing their day in court, right?
Right. I think that's a more difficult fix
Yeah.
because the just the sheer numbers of people that could add to this backlog, right? It's not a, mistreatment, bad facilities. I think that's something that can be fixed much easier.
But is it a resources issue then? If you want to get trial,
Mistreatment can't be it's yeah.
no, if you want to get people their day in court a lot faster, is that
Right.
about having more court resources, more judges, maybe more courtrooms? I don't know.
Something, yeah.
Yeah.
That I think that would take probably a little bit more doing. Because like you said, judges, you can't just like, pull judges up off of the street,
Yeah.
right? There has to be some criteria there. There's some length of time before someone can make it to becoming having the qualifications to be a judge. Um, you know, it could be a resource issue in that way. It could be, case logs. It could be a facilities issue, right? I mean, there are only so many courtrooms that can be, and
Right.
maybe there's a way you have to think about that. Okay, maybe these have to be done via remote Zoom like we were doing during the pandemic, so then you don't have the physical location limitation, and maybe you can get through more
Or
judges.
do you need more public defenders, more attorneys, right?
Right.
Because maybe you don't have enough of
Sure.
them, and that's why cases are slow too, because the lawyers
Yeah.
are busy.
We already know that public defenders are swamped. They're overworked. They have caseloads that are incredible. So, and that's an issue that can't be fixed overnight, right? You can't just all of a sudden go and say, "Hey, you want to be a lawyer? You want to be a public defender?" Like they're
But in some states, and New York doesn't do this, right? But in some states, they actually require lawyers to take on cases. Like they'll just assign a lawyer a case like that, even if they
right.
don't even do that, right? They became a lawyer to do whatever else, right? Work in the public sector, work for some corporation or somewhere else in the government, whatever it is, right? They want to start their own practice doing parking tickets. I don't know, whatever they wanted to do, divorces, you name it. But
All right.
the state will come in and say, no, we have a shortage here. We're going to assign you this case. You got to defend this person now. New York doesn't do that. You know what I mean? But I've heard of some of my friends in other states being assigned cases by the state like that.
Listen, I'm putting it out there. I am volunteering to judge some of these Rikers cases to help with the backlog. Um,
Go to law
not a lawyer.
school.
Haven't been to law school. I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think
that's
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 specifically a criteria.
that's
You
step
know,
one.
I don't think that's specifically a
Yeah,
criteria.
because then we're talking about violating the rights in a whole different way, right? Having their
I'm
cases
just
adjudicated
saying
by
this is,
non-lawyers, non-judges.
you know, you know, I think we're probably in a gray area there. Like the Speaker of the House in Congress doesn't necessarily have to be an elected official. So I think we can do the same with judges.
No, we cannot.